thank you guys for joining me again on Permission to Pause podcast. Actually, we've renamed it. It used to be called the Quantum Buddha podcast. And since the last episode, I announced the new name and I've changed it all over social media and everything. So I'm very excited to sort of have that new name that really represents what we're trying to do here, is create that permission to pause. That's why we do a meditation at the start of each podcast. And we've got our two fantastic guests, returning guest Ben Laing and Bhavika Chauhan. I hope I'm saying that right, Bhavika.
Got it. Perfect.
Do you want to introduce yourself? What do you do? Who are you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is something I've been definitely looking forward to. I've known Ben for a while, and I appreciate the connection to both of you. And now we're in each other's world, which is really nice. And so thank you for having me. My name's Bhavika. I work in social media. I started a lot with mindset and personal development. I was creating a lot of content online, and from that content, was able to grow an audience. And what I started to attract were people asking me about social media. And I realized that I had this skill to turn all the mindset, personal development, self-help work into the social side of social media. And so now I help business owners and entrepreneurs grow online and create content. And it's just something that has opened so many doors for me. And I absolutely love it. And I'm glad that we've connected through social media. And so I'm happy to be here.
Amazing. Thank you. It's really great to have you. Like, having watched some of your content and seen what you're putting out there into the world is fantastic. Like, I'm just blown away by the kind of things you put out, like the quality of it. It's really, I would easily find you online and just start following you if Ben hadn't sort of introduced you. So really excited to get into the topic today, which I haven't even introduced yet. But before I introduce the topic, Ben, would you like to reintroduce yourself?
I am an entrepreneur and a dad of four, and I do many things. I do marathons and crazy things like ice baths, and I'm very good friends with Virr, the host of Permission to Pause, the new name, and I'm a content creator. And I'm just a creator in general. Like I create businesses, I create systems, I create books. We're writing podcasts, and I enjoy jumping onto podcasts like this where I'm not the host per se. Like I'm more of a guest and a speaker than being the direct, like the responsibility almost that this is sort of more casual for me. So yeah, I enjoy conversations like this. This is like my passion. So I own two businesses that are very successful. They pretty much work almost without me, and I live a very good life. So that's probably up there with my biggest success.
Great, thanks. It's good to have you back, Ben. Always great to have you on the podcast. So thank you for introducing Bhavika as well. Today's topic is going to be about what is self-awareness. So I always like to start with just checking in with each of you, and we'll start with you, Bhavika. What is self-awareness?
I'm so glad that we have this topic today, because this to me is probably one of the most important realizations I've had in my life. And so, to put it simply, I think self-awareness is knowing yourself internally. It's not just the external you, the way that you show up in the world, like being a student or a teacher or an entrepreneur or a dad or a mom. It's nothing that is a label or identity. It's the awareness of that inner self. And I think it has a lot to do with tapping into more of the conscious part of your mind and becoming aware of your internal environment, not just your external environment. So the way that I look at self-awareness is building a relationship with yourself, a personal relationship that nobody else really has access to, that is just you and you.
The idea of the inner world as well. It's something that I always find interesting to try and visualize. Like the first thing that came up in my mind when you said inner world was I watch a lot of anime, and in anime, characters' inner worlds are like a visual thing that they can interact with their inner self, and it's always interesting to see how different characters interact with their inner selves differently, the different states of being and states of mind affect their inner world. So there's one where the character is feeling sad, like depressed even, and their inner world is like plunged underwater, like the whole world has been raining, like he's crying inside, kind of thing. And it's really beautiful expression of that. So like yeah, when you say inner world, like I get really inspired into like the visuals of what that looks like, and I like to try and imagine what my inner world looks like and connect to it that way. But I find that I don't always actually, I don't always connect to it visually. A lot of the time it's more mental, like I might connect to it through words that I sort of hear in my mind or that appear in my mind as thoughts. Yeah, it's really interesting what it
You know,
means to connect to your inner world. Gone.
yeah, that is really interesting. I appreciate that perspective because as I was saying it, I'm not thinking visually, but I actually learned something amazing. It's from one of my favorite books ever. It's called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. And he talks about having a relationship with God. And he says the problem is that most people believe that their relationship with God is through words, and that is the number one form of communication, when really it's not, because we're so limited by words. Words are limiting as a human experience, whereas God is all, right? God, universe, whatever you believe in, not limited to any sort of identity or label. But he says not necessarily just talking, but visual, but mainly feeling. It's your emotions and how you feel. That is your true guidance system. Abraham Hicks talks about it too, also, your emotional inner guidance system. So, how you feel is your most important indicator to your connectedness to your higher self, your inner self, or God in this perspective. But the visual I think of is funny. You think of anime, I think of that movie Inside Out. It's that Disney movie where they have like joy and sadness. And I just thought that was a beautiful visual, especially for children. It's a great message to understand that you have these inner emotions, inner experiences, and they really shape who you are and how you feel and how you move through life. And so just becoming aware of that, I think, is the key. And I like this topic because I always like to bring more attention to that inner world because I don't think we do that enough as a society.
Brought up some interesting points there, and one of them is Abraham Hicks, and you've mentioned him to me, or Esther Hicks to me as well. That I'd really love to dive into that a bit more, but I want to get Ben's input and what self awareness means to you, Ben, before we really dive deep into
Yeah,
it.
lots of bookmarks there to come back to.
Okay,
Especially because you mentioned Inside Out.
okay,
Um,
cool. I think I did.
yeah, I've watched that many times with my kids. So what is the question? So what is self-awareness, was it?
Yeah, what is self awareness for you?
Can I just touch on what Bhavika was saying first? The thing
Of
about
course.
feelings like as a guidance system, like I've just recently learned about that. Um Obviously I've read the Conversations with God as well, and that was a really, really powerful book. And it taught me about the like four-dimensional being of being physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And that sort of like, although I knew that there was a spiritual dimension, I never thought about it as four dimensions. So I was that kind of expanded what I thought I already knew, and looking at things from four dimensions. I was like, wow, that's really powerful, and it really just opened me up to the idea that there's not just one dimension, like where everyone lives, which is the physical, and I call it physical and logical, like thinking. And people are stuck there. Like 99% of people are definitely stuck there, or at least in Western world. But feelings, I was learning about feelings in a book called The Desire Map by Danielle Lepore, if you've heard of her. And she talks about core desired feelings. So ultimately, what's that core desired feeling that you want to be feeling right now? That we were talking just before we got tuned into this podcast about the How We Feel app. That's like a non-profit organization that's created this amazing journal free to the world, and Virr and I use this to manage our emotions, to keep an eye on our awareness of our emotions on a day to day. It's like journaling, and you can add more to it, but it's really just that category of red, blue, which is negative, and positive, yellow, and what's it called? Yeah, green, which is positives, high and lows, and negative high and lows. And like for me, reading that book, The Desire Map, then finding out about this app that's about tracking our emotions on a not hourly, but hour like maybe 3 times a day. I use it, and I'm able to see what where my feelings are throughout the day, and I know what my core desired feelings are. I know that one of them, and I'm trying to embody it, but I know that one of them is energized. That's a huge core value or desired feeling that I want to feel throughout the day. And if I'm off of that, I know that I'm misaligned. So, and like Var was talking about just before we started the recording, maybe he was looking at the computer all day and he felt, frazzled, and he needed to get out and look at the sun and be out in daylight. And this is him getting back into alignment from being feeling a bit out of alignment. So core desire feelings, like that's something I've really been tuning into. I'm only about quarter of the way through the book, but it really taught me that feelings is the way that we tap into the other dimensions rather than just the physical.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you know what what we consider the fourth dimension to be?
Tell
It's
us.
I learned it from Dr. Joe Dispenza. He says the fourth dimension is time because we live in a 3D world, so we're all 3D beings. And what separates us from the third dimension and the fifth dimension, which is the quantum level, is essentially the experience of time. Like we feel like we are separated from everything because of time. You're separated from the future want. You're separated from the past experience because it is some significant length of time, right? Where are you going to be in 5 years from now? That's not here, right? And what happened 5 years ago, that is separated by time. But to transcend the fourth dimension, so to get to that quantum level, you have to become fully present. And so when you're
Yeah,
fully present, time doesn't
yeah, yeah,
exist. And there is no fourth dimension in that
yeah,
way. And then you can kind of quantum leap or quantum
yeah.
level. So I learned that from Dr. Joe Dispenza. And when you brought that up, I was like, that's cool that you're saying, like a feeling, because I do think that's the guidance that can get you to that next level, next dimension, whatever it is. So I just want to share that because I really loved your answer, Ben.
I've got shivers down the spine from your response about that. Just
Yeah,
how
me too.
aligned that is, yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Joe Dispenza, the book, he does a really good job in becoming supernatural. That book is a very like science kind of quantum level book.
Yeah.
Talks a lot. He that literally shifted everything for me. Like he explains it so well. Like you would really understand how energy and like the quantum vibration and how it is applicable to your life, not just,
Yeah.
woo science stuff.
Yeah.
It's like really
Yeah. I'm a massive fan of Joe Dispenza as well. Like I've read probably about 3 of his books. What was the book that you read or books that you've read?
becoming supernatural is the one where he
Becoming
really,
Supernatural, right? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's the one that the
yeah,
energy.
that's really good. The other good
Breaking the
one
habit
by
of being
him,
yourself is probably the
Breaking the
one I'm
Habit of
thinking
Being
of.
Yourself. Yeah.
I've watched a lot of podcasts and interviews about it, but I haven't actually sat down and read it.
And
It's a
that's
really good
probably,
one.
I would maybe say that's
His best one.
equally, potentially the best introduction to Joe Dispenza for myself. And what I recommend if I was introducing it to other people, I would say start with Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It's very practical, very like Becoming Supernatural is probably might be a better introduction because it's more stories about people doing the unusual, unnatural, and that for that reason it might be a better introduction. But the good thing about Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is very much like goes through a bunch of science, but then information, but then it's got like some applicable things at the end of each chapter. So like really practical stuff and meditations that are really powerful. And Vera and I have went through a big 2 hour long process from that book. So it's good for that. It's like pretty much like a workshop. and it's a book you can't just skim over or audiobook it. You have to really you won't you'll get a lot from it, but like the most I got from it was when me and Ver actually sat down and used it.
I notice about his books and certain books, like I can't just passively listen. Some that I just like not just get through, but I know that I can kind of go through it and so that I can quickly download as much as I
Yeah,
can from that. But then there's other books like that that I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like I need to be, it's almost, I look at it as a textbook. There's some that are books, and then there's some that are textbooks where you actually have to stop and do the actual work. And Dr. Joe Dispenza is a textbook kind of guy.
definitely. Yeah. I think Becoming Supernatural is the his least textbook book,
Interesting.
but yeah, if you read that, the Evolve Your Brain as well is another one by him that I've read. That was super difficult, to be honest. Like one of the hardest books I've read. Very scientific, but breaking the habit of being yourself was Ver and I got introduced to that through our mentor in spirituality and super consciousness, and we realized a lot of his workshops are sort of based around that kind of stuff as well. And yeah, that was my introduction to Joe Dispenza, and then I became a big fan of him. But you said about no time, and the other things he says is like no time, no space, no body, and that's how you leave
Yeah.
this dimension.
It's so
There's one
crazy when you
thing.
come out and
Come,
think about that. Or go ahead. That's all I was gonna say.
no, I was gonna say there's one thing that really stuck with me from reading Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, which is you were saying that you when you sit down to meditate, if you don't like leave the meditation, if you don't stand up and leave the meditation changed from it in some way, then you haven't meditated, because just the very act of becoming present shifts your state. The point of it is to get a kind of connect to that quantum level. It's to kind of, if you can't connect to the quantum level, at least sort of just focus on calming your mind and letting go of all the things that are going on in your life in the physical world. So that really just stuck with me, that like when I'm doing a meditation, I keep that in mind to, sort of come out of it changed in some way. Speaking of, Ben, would you like to lead us on a meditation? I've had a few
Oh yeah,
different
I've not even answered
potential.
your question yet.
Yeah,
Okay,
true.
okay, go on. I'll let you answer the question after the meditation. How about we practice self awareness by getting present, and then what's obvious to you, you can share afterwards.
Okay, this is unplanned. So yeah, let's all close our eyes and sit in your meditating position. For me, I like to sit up straight, my back nice and straight, my neck straight, my chin up, my hands sort of turned around facing the ceiling, leaning on my lap, and just take a few deep breaths, the deepest breath you've taken all day through your nose and out. And do a few more of them. Do it until you feel a bit more present and a bit more relaxed. So yeah, just imagine that you are physically, spiritually leaving your body right now. That there's a spirit coming out of your physical body and it's just moving upwards into the sky, into space, and right up into outer space, into a whole other dimension that you've never known about. And just explore this space. What does it look like? What can you see around? And just explore it. Be intuitive. Decide to go left, decide to go right. Make it up yourself. And just start walking through wherever you are and walking at a nice slow pace, being present with every step. Imagine the steps feel like you've got your socks and shoes off. You're feeling the floor beneath you, wherever that is. And each step is really energizing through your body, through your veins, through your blood. And you're feeling really present and really alive and energized with each step that you take. And then imagine yourself walking and what you start to feel is water on your feet. And then you continue to walk into the direction of the water as if it was a sea getting deeper. And you walk into the sea and you feel the sea water up to your knees now. And with each step that you take, you feel it getting higher up your legs, up to your thigh, up to your back. And then all of a sudden you're completely submerged in water right under. Your head's right under, you're literally in the ocean now. And now it turns into swimming. So we start swimming through the sea and whatever stroke you want. And I want you to look for a certain symbol. And whatever that symbol is, just trust what it is. And it's in relation to the topic of this podcast. And what is that symbol? What does it represent? It's not describing what the symbol is. It's symbolic, and the symbol only means something else. It's a sign towards giving you some type of information or wisdom. So just wait for that to come up if it's not come up yet. But if you know what it is, when you're ready in your own time, start to come back to your body, where we are just now, and waking up, come out of and back into the body and back into time and back into space. And then we'll share between the three of us what symbol we got and describe what it means as some talking points. And if you've not yet got a symbol, then just wait for it to show up and trust that it will come. And the question is, when you see the symbol, is what does it represent? What does it mean? What is it about? What is it trying to tell you? And just hold that thought. Write it down. It may likely be a sea creature, like a red fish that I got, but I'm right now, because I was guiding it, trying to work out what does that red fish actually mean in relation to this topic.
I was just checking, Bhavika, do you have a symbol?
Yes.
Okay. I have one too. Ben, you've got one. So I think it'd be a great space to explore what that symbol obviously means to you. I'll go first. It just seems obvious.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
for me, the symbol was a blank book that I was sort of just visualize myself standing there with this book, and I had some of the pages already filled out, and I was looking at some blank pages, and everything after was blank pages. And what that meant for me, what was obvious to me about that, was just connecting to this idea that like there is no it should have been this or it should have been that. Just really connecting to that idea of being like you are the author of your life. Your life is that blank book for you to fill up those pages with your story. Whatever direction that you choose to take in your life, whatever experiences that you have, you whatever experience you have of life is true for you. Like there is no alternative, almost like, because that is the book that you write. And just like really connecting to that idea of being the author of your life as well, that phrase came up when I was doing that. So two ideas there, really. One of them is the idea that there is no right path, in the sense of, like, if you're an author who's writing a story, you come up with that story whilst you're writing it. That story was not already written and then you sort of just figured out what it's supposed to be. You kind of carve it out. You craft it over years, over multiple sessions of coming back to that book and writing more and writing more and writing more, and you figure it out. And it's just really that idea of being the author. And it feels very relevant in my life right now. So I love that.
Nice. I really like that. That's a good interpretation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Which one of you wants to go next? What's obvious?
Can I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Awesome. I really like that meditation. I feel very relaxed. Like I didn't want to stop.
Yeah. I got right
Um,
into it as well. Like I was quite surprised. Normally I like build it up and I just went right into the deep end.
yeah, I like that. I think because we are already, well, we're practiced, and then we're already calm and present. So it was nice. I really enjoyed it. I like when you
Yeah.
said, when that symbol comes up, don't like judge it, or like don't think you need to, know what it is. And then obviously very like you said that, where like with the blank pages of the book. So that really stood out to me, and I like that you commented on that as well. And so my symbol, as soon as you said it, it literally popped up immediately, and I didn't second guess it or judge it. It's the Poseidon, where he has like that kind of, I forget what it's called, like the pitchfork, but it's not his
The
pitchfork.
trident?
It's the yes, trident. Yeah, that. So it was that, but like an emblem, like almost like it was like a circle with the trident in it,
Yeah.
and it was like gold. So that was a symbol. And then I was like, okay, like, all right, I guess. And then you were like, okay, then what do you think it means? And then immediately two things came up. I had to ask myself first, being like, oh, okay, like, what does this mean? And the two things that came up were strength and courage. And so when you said to kind of keep going and think about it, I dove into those two words. And I think what they meant for me is, on the topic of self-awareness, I think there's a lot of strength in knowing yourself. I'm a big believer that the people that are doing extraordinary things are extraordinary because they know themselves that well. It's not that they have these extraordinary skills that they were given at birth. It's not that they have something that you don't. They have developed everything they've developed because they're so in tune with themselves. They're not necessarily sitting there working on something that they hate and that's a weakness, trying to make it their strength. They've leaned into their natural tendencies, their innate abilities, and that's why they're able to excel more than the average person, because they just are themselves so well. And I think when you are yourself, and you know yourself, there's a lot of strength that comes through
Yep.
in life, and you kind of develop this unshakableness. And that's why I think, like with Poseidon and the trident, like that's such a symbol of strength. So that to me was the one part. And then the other part was courage. I think the reason why a lot of people don't develop self-awareness is because they're scared to face themselves. I think it's one of the
Mm.
scariest things you can do in your life. Um, and it's not an external threat. It's literally being able to be okay with yourself in those quiet moments, in the stillness, when no one's around, when you're alone, or when you're going through something. And so for me, on my self-awareness journey, how it started was because of the realization that I couldn't be alone. I was not okay being alone. As soon as I had time to myself, I would make plans. I was a very social person. I grew up in a big family, and I realized I was living abroad. I was living in Australia, and I'm from Canada. And I remember I would have like some evenings free, and I couldn't just chill. I needed to go out and be with people and do something. And I was like, something's off here. If I don't enjoy my own company, or if I can't just be in my own company, like something's wrong. And I
Mm.
didn't know what. And I wanted to explore that. But it was scary because now it's not like I can just check my phone or listen to music or go out with friends. Like I literally had to talk to myself and question myself. And it can be initially the scariest part. And so with
Mm.
self-awareness, I think you need courage. You need the courage to want to explore yourself, to discover yourself, because, there are things that you have to work on. There are things that you've neglected. There are things that you kind of ignored, or put off or distracted or numbed yourself or whatever, tried to escape it. And it's kind of like that concept of shadow self, right? Like people don't want to face that. But when you do and you overcome that fear, the benefit is like nothing else in the world. It is the ultimate, like self-realization, self-actualization, to know yourself is one of the highest virtues you can have in life. And so anything that's that powerful, there could be that comfort zone that you need to get out of. You need to face that, whatever perceived fear it is, and that requires courage. And so it makes sense when I look back at the trident, the Poseidon emblem, that strength and courage were the two things that popped up for me, and it makes sense why.
That's a really good, successful process.
Yeah, right. I don't know. It just came up. I like it. It was the
Yeah,
meditation. It ignited that
yeah.
in me. So, hey, thank you.
I like how you said unshakableness with when it comes to like when you've done that work on yourself, the self-awareness. Like I can totally relate to that, and I see a lot of that happening with Veer right now as well. Right now, he's like becoming a much stronger person, and that's through watching him sort of grow as like through his personal development. And the other part you said about your own company, like I like again shivers down the spine because it's so aligned. What you were saying, because I realized in that moment that like a lot of I had like lots of social anxiety, like really debilitating anxiety for quite a long time. But now I spend time on my own in public rooms. Like I sit and literally have like a meal on my own in restaurants and like cafes and stuff. And I see people watching me and probably thinking it's quite strange. But like I'm just really present and enjoy. Like I did it today. I just really enjoyed my lunch on my own in a cafe garden. And that's I've come a long way to get to that point without like caring what people think about me. And I'm just enjoying, I'm just vibing with myself. And it's such a freeing, like amazing place to get to. But you have to go through hell. Some people have to go through hell to get there. And I did.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So like for me, I totally get what you're saying about like it takes huge amount for me it took huge amount of courage to leave my tribe, move away to a place about an hour away from where I grew up my whole life. I was like small town boy, like stayed in that place, and like I just didn't explore. When I went to London for the first time, the anxiety was like unreal. And then when I started like going back to civilization from living in this like random place I lived in for 2 years, like it was just like a lot of like self-awareness and like cutting myself off of like what I knew. And that journey was really, really painful because there's a lot of solitude in that as well. And because we're sort of naturally tribal and like we need community or we crave community and we it feels safe to stay in the community, to leave the community by working on self-awareness, you kind of have to leave the community because they can, like the crab in bucket sort of syndrome or tall poppy syndrome, like they pull you down, they stop you from changing. They don't like you to change and leave. So for me, a big part of my self-awareness was actually leaving the tribe temporarily to like go away and actually be in solitude and go, who am I? And probably that happened for both of you as travel in the world. I just did it very different, like in a slightly different way. I only moved an hour away for 2 years. And I had like two friends visit me in that period. Now, like I kind of realized who were my real friends because like if only two of them came and visited me, I was only an hour away. I was like, I didn't really have any friends. So that was a painful period. And then I met people like Veer, and then I met other friends, and it all started to work out. But there was many years of like not being sure about myself and being in a lot of pain. And I can understand why people just give up, like just go back and into the tribe and go, that was too hard. So
Yeah,
yeah,
you
just
said it
back
so
to
well. I think that that is like the life hack of knowing yourself is you have to remove yourself from a familiar environment because the way that I always look at it, and this is what I used to tell like a lot of my students, being my background being a high school teacher, and they're at that age where they're graduating and trying to get into a job and figure out their lives. And I was like, you don't even really know who you are beyond what everyone else knows about you.
yeah,
The perfect example is like, I grew up playing sports, tomboy. I have two brothers. And so if I walked into anywhere that people knew me and I was wearing a full pink outfit, like it would feel uncomfortable and people would be like, well, why are you wearing it? That's not you. But what if I really just wanted to wear that? What if I now started wanting to wear that and look that way, you know? Whereas when you travel and you're where nobody knows you, you can be whoever you want to
right,
be.
yeah,
And it's that exploration and that freedom, even that feeling, that sense of freedom that allows your true self to come up. And that's why I say, like, if you never leave your hometown and you're kind of always around the same, it's harder to discover your true self because everyone is projecting what they think they know about you on you, and it's hard to escape that.
yeah. And it's like back to Joe Dispenza's. He calls it like having novel experiences. So having the same will just like if you walk into your room, your bedroom, and you've been in that bedroom for the last 30 years, it will smell exactly the same. And like that trigger of the smell of that room will just take you back into that like operating system that you're in, the programming, and make you live life the exact same way because it'll trigger you back into your pattern and make you feel safe and you'll live that way. But if everything's like novel, which means like new and untouched to your brain or your body, like you've never really been there or experienced this person, that place, like there's new smells, it's different. It takes that, it's what creates that change. And you actually trying new things, doing different things and exploring versus if you're in that comfortable environment, he was saying that it's like the touch, the feel of something, the smell, the senses that are used to that comfort is what actually just keeps you in that programming. So it's so important to like at a like scientific level, he was explaining like why that happens.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Makes so much sense.
My symbol that I got was, like I said, a red fish. Of course, we're in the sea. And it actually took me back to I don't even know if there was a red fish in The Little Mermaid, but what this all meant to me when I let yous go first, and I kind of do that when I'm picking something on a menu at lunch. I always let other people go first because I'm like last minute I'm like I want the steak or like I'll change my mind last second. So I was because I guided the meditation, I like you get more present when someone's guiding it for you. When you're guiding it, you're sort of in and out the physical and the spiritual dimension. And I've sort of been processing what that meant to me while yous have been speaking. And basically, it meant childhood. Little Mermaid was actually my favorite movie as a child. I have an embarrassing video somewhere of my parents had of me singing the main song in Little Mermaid in the bath.
That should be the intro to this podcast, just that clip.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But what it meant was inner child and in relation to self-awareness, like your inner child is, we're just, I heard someone put it this way, that we're just growing up children. Like we're not adults. We're just like children that have lived a bit longer, and we'll always be that child, but we just sort of cover it with this mask and facade. So it's just a reminder for us all to tap into that inner child that was singing in the bathtub to the Little Mermaid song. Like I didn't care about what anyone thought about me in that moment. And that's the point. That's the message that I'm given, is that we need to connect to that energy where we're just innocence.
I like that. I definitely see self-awareness as like inner child because that's how all of our brains are programmed, right? Like your brain is programmed from 0 to 7. That's why you barely have any memories because you're so present at that time. Like you're literally creating those new connections. And then after 7 years old, around 7 years old, everything gets built upon those. So,
Yeah.
the example I like to think about is like if there's something that you didn't like how you looked. Like for example, if I thought my kneecaps were ugly, like, and as a woman now moving forward in my life, like subconsciously I just think like, oh, I love longer skirts. I love long dresses,
Right.
because they cover my kneecaps, but I'm not sitting there being like, yeah, I need to buy a dress that covers my kneecaps. It's just at that point, it's ingrained in me, and everything I do, all the actions I take are based on that until you become aware of it. Until you
Yeah.
look at your kneecaps and you're kind of like, they're not so bad. Maybe I'll wear some short shorts today, Like I don't mind. And that's the awareness part. Like you have to go back to your inner child programming to realize, why am I the way that I am and who am I?
Yeah, that's really interesting as well. Like you mentioned, the reason you don't really remember it at that age is because you're so present. Like Ben and I had that realization. We were on a call, and I remember I was I think, like somewhere in Quebec, and I was just walking around. You were talking, Ben, about you're like on a mountain or climbing a mountain, you were so present that whilst you were doing that activity that you barely remembered actually doing it. You were just like
Yeah.
so present that you enjoyed it. It's like what Ben and I realize is like sometimes when you are extremely present, like you don't actually really remember it afterwards
You
because
fall
that's
off
just
cliffs.
yeah, you fall off a
Just
cliff like.
joking.
um, and it's just just interesting that you brought that up because that's something that we've kind of theorized about, I suppose. And I've always wondered like why don't I remember anything from that time? I really don't remember much from before I was like 7. There's a few like memories, but I'm pretty sure they came from stories and photos rather than actual like remembering those moments.
Yeah. Yeah. Photos are like a very physical way of capturing it.
The way that I've learned it, I think from Joe Dispenza, is like that's your unconscious mind. Like that's what becomes your unconscious mind. So that's why
Right.
you
Yeah.
you can't remember it, right? Like it's not like you're consciously thinking about those times because you were conscious at the time, but after 7 years old, they become unconscious programs.
Yeah, that's
As
interesting
in the
actually.
photos,
No, the experiences, right?
the experiences, right? Sorry.
Sorry, what did you say? Like what do you mean experiences?
So Ben was asking, did you mean the photos become unconscious, or? And I was correcting and saying
Yeah,
you said
yeah,
the
yeah.
experiences that you have at that time. Yeah, and so like I had a few bookmarks from what you said as well, Bhavika, about your symbol. Like you said, self-awareness is scary. Like it takes courage to face it. And I was going to ask why, but you kind of answered that question as well. That like, you go into like the things that you've tried to escape in your life, the things that you've tried to avoid about yourself, maybe like times where you have been, let's say, where you felt pain basically as a child, where you felt that pain, and then like if like training a dog, like my flatmate got a dog, like 6 months ago, and going through the process of training the dog, I really like, I feel like I saw like my inner child throughout that process of like seeing the way that a dog gets trained to respond in a certain way and going, wow, like actually, like humans are mammals as well. We get trained in that period of time as well to behave in a certain way. That's what societal conditioning is
Uh,
anyway. So it's like, yeah, like ultimately the mask that you were talking about, Ben, the facade, the
Yeah.
unconscious, it's all of that training that you had from 0 to 7
Yeah.
based on your experiences. The painful experiences got you to stop doing something. Like you said, Viveka, like, that painful experience about your knees were got you to decide to wear long dresses. Like that's a conditioning, you know.
Yep.
And it's so interesting that we like. I feel like we've kind of got to the answer of the question of what is self awareness, like so quickly. It's really understanding all of those parts of who that you've been conditioned to be. But
Mm.
then the layer under that obviously is okay. So who are you without the conditioning?
Yeah.
Who are you once you actually let loose of that conditioning? Like you said, Bhavika, like that part of you that wanted to wear like a full pink outfit, for example. Where did that want or desire to wear the pink outfit come from? That's
Mhm.
where I look at it and go, yeah, there's a part of you that wanted to do that, for example.
You said, Vika, a word that sort of stuck with me, and I just wrote it down as well, like what Vern and I call bookmarks. And you said you can be whoever you want to be when you're traveling, I think you said. And it's like I kind of thought about that to just bring this up later in the conversation, that like you can be that even with these people when you eventually go full circle. Once you get that to that awareness and you go back to that circle wearing those pink clothes, like that's where you've really mastered it.
Excellent point. I completely agree. That's what you want to get to, right? Because then you're not concerned about what anybody else thinks because you're so self-confident. You're so
Yes.
sure in who you are. Not that you know everything or that you know fully, completely that, this is who I am. You're not attached to who you are, but you're more aware that it's a part of a bigger picture, so it doesn't matter. Like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
deeper self-awareness is that connection to God, universe, higher power, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. And so you know that like the other person's also connected to that. You're connected to that. We're all connected. It's all the source of everything. So at the end
Yeah.
of the day, it literally doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
there's no self-judgment at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if other people are judging you, because if you're not judging yourself, then that's the number one. Like your number
Yeah.
one priority. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. As a foundation, like you're it's like I've got like a triangle up here on my whiteboard I can see, and I've got foundation, like is number one is foundation, and then number two, like Maslow hierarchy of needs, for example. The first step is getting the foundations and like the safety, the security, just the basics. And like once you've got the basics of which in this case, like with our we call it the ego or the unconscious mind, the conditioning, the fear, the judgment, the self-judgment, like you need to work on like I was talking to a family member who's I'm helping with super consciousness and basically life coaching outside of like work and things. And I was helping like listening to the dialogue, like the language that she was using. I was sort of picking up on, wow, like the first step is really just to go into nature, like to get away from it all, to like just do the most natural thing for yourself. Like it's drink a glass of water. Like it's just so basic stuff, and that's survival. Like, and people can overcomplicate it sometimes. Like when you're in that survival state, you overcomplicate it, which is very dysfunctional. But when you're in survival, you would think just to go to the survival things, like I said, drinking a glass of water, going into nature, taking a good breath like of fresh air. Another example is I went onto ChatGPT today when I had really bad. I think my breathing was really bad. I think I overdid it at football on Sunday, and I went to the sauna in the steam room, and that's my new way of like when I'm in survival, I'll fix myself through biohacks, like through biological hacks, like things that are just the basics instead of finding drugs. And what ChatGPT told me to do was call 999. Like, and it was like, it actually made me go into fight or flight when I read that. And I was like, based on all your symptoms, call 999 right now. And I was like, oh fuck. So and that made me feel so much worse because I've never had ChatGPT giving me that response before. It's normally quite practical and gives you some like basic things to do. But just to cut to my point is what I do now today is not panic. And like I got out of that state and I went, it's not that, I explained to ChatGPT, it's not that serious. Give me something like less serious to do. And it was like, yeah, steam room and a sauna would be a good idea. So like, it's just going and doing those basic things that are going to help you, and then confidence comes at the top of all of that triangle. But like it's just like for anyone listening and like for us as well, it's like just realizing like when I was speaking to this person and thinking about myself today with the sauna and the breathing situation, it's like when you're in fight or flight, it's helpful to have like a calm person to speak to because you're very illogical and dysfunctional when you're in survival. And it's really helpful just to have a person looking at the blind spots and suggesting something from wisdom. And wisdom is just like is very natural things like hot and cold and like go for a walk in nature and drink a glass of water. Go to bed early tonight. Wake up like whenever you want. Don't turn the alarm off. Like just fill up your cup basically and like do what you need to survive. And then like think about thriving and showing off and things later. Like and we forget that.
I think state is everything. Like this current state that you're in. A good example, Abraham Hicks tells this story. She has like a USB and it has all her important information on it. You know, she runs a very successful business. She needs this USB and she can't find it. It's gone, it's lost. She is in a full panic, like literally searching her whole house, calling everyone, being like, "Have you seen this USB? Can't find it." And so it like was a long extended time of her trying to search for it. And as soon as she called one of her workers and was like I can't find it, they said like, "Oh, I have it. Like I found it. It's here with me." And as soon as she heard that, she relaxed, completely relieved, completely stress-free, like thank God, you know, like it's done, it's found, no stress, no worry. As soon as she got off the phone, she found the USB in her house. And she realized that the USB that he found was a different one and that she actually had the USB she was looking for and it was in plain sight. Like she just couldn't see it because of the stress state that she
Right.
was in
Yeah, yeah. It's
front of
like
her. But
clouds almost.
yeah, exactly. And like in your mind, it's gone, it's lost. That's the frequency, that's the vibration you're on. So even if it came and
Right.
slapped you in
Yeah.
the face, like, and that's with life, right? Like all the answers are right there. It's just where's your focus? What state are you in? Are you allowing yourself to be at the vibrational level of the things that you want? And if you're stressed about the things that you want, you're not on the level. Because if you had it, you'd be relieved, you'd be
Yeah, yeah.
chill. You have to be that first, so that way you can match, frequencies and things to you. But when you're stressed and it's all state dependent. And that's something that I like to think about and remind myself all the time. Tony Robbins is a big guy for that.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, he likes that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Or
remember
you were
when I
gonna
was
say something, we spoke at the same time.
I'll come back to what I was going to say then, but I remember when I was in Canada, there was a girl in the hostel who would, like, anytime she lost something, she'd just be like, "Oh, it's cool, I'll manifest it." Like she lost her wallet, I'll
Oh,
manifest it.
nice.
She lost her phone, I'll manifest it. And it worked every time, every single time. Like the same day later on, we'd see her again, and she'd be like, "Oh, I found it." Or like I'd literally be with her walking somewhere. They're like, "Oh, it's right there. Cool." Like every time, and we literally did this. There was a door that our like card wouldn't open. Right, we tapped the card against the door and it just wouldn't open. The card should just open like all the doors. It shouldn't really be a problem. And like, I was there with like two friends, and we are like, okay, we're just gonna manifest it. Literally, just manifest it. Like physically relaxed, mentally relaxed, emotionally relaxed. Tap the card, door opened. Like it literally.
Yay.
It's so funny how it works. It happens every
And that
time.
it does work. You've been teaching me that. Remember we had the Google verification error and you said
Yeah.
rise above it and manifest. Like not manifest it, but very similar to that. You were just basically saying weed out like why this chaos has happened. And I didn't do it. I didn't take that advice. But then when I eventually took that advice, like 3 days later, I sat on my chair literally for like 30 seconds. I got similar to what we just did in the meditation. I just meditated. I rose above myself, got out of no time, no space, no body. I got into that state, and then I checked my email, and the verification email came in to say it's been verified. And I was like, manifested it. It's
That
happening all the
works.
time. Yeah.
And then when after you manifested, you're kind of like, gosh, why couldn't I just have gotten there faster?
Why didn't I do it 3 days ago? Yeah.
But
Exactly, right?
that's the
Where
thing
was
though.
being
Like,
my blind spot in that moment, and I was so dysfunctional, let's say, in my ego, in my unconscious mind, that I was like, Vir's wrong, like I wasn't taking like my partner sort of advice that like we trust each other because I was like obviously in my ego that I was like, I'll do that later. Like that was a bad idea.
I was gonna say like that's exactly what you were saying, Bhavika. Like, when you're in that survival state, when you're like, it's so funny to me how paradoxical we are as humans because you're like in that survival state, you are highly emotional, but
Yeah.
you convince yourself that you're highly logical, and
Yeah.
you like think that you're doing all of the right things. You're
Yeah.
like, but I looked there and it should be there, and like, but I've done this. Like, why isn't this working? And you're like super, super stressed or super emotional in some way, and you're like super rationalizing, and it's that rationalizing. It's like that is actually a response, like an automatic nervous response to like pain and to fear and to these sorts of things that we struggle with, and is actually because that hyper rationalizing, well, rationalizing the problem, like ruminating, thinking through it, is a response. When you let go of that, when you relax out of that, then you relax the emotion as well. And then you, like you
Yeah.
say, Vivek, like you can rise above it. You can, and something you mentioned like way earlier in this conversation as well. You said that the fourth dimension is time, and the fifth dimension is the, like quantum. And it's like, yeah, I was talking to Ben recently, and we were talking about like, this is going to happen in the future, like when I get to that point. And I was like, there is no future. There is no time between, like, there's people talk about this idea of like divine timing, and I'm like, no, there is no such thing as divine timing. Divine timing is not about a certain point in time in the future that you will get there. It's when you deal with that particular thing in your
Mm.
unconscious, that once you're able to like let go of something that you've been holding on to, once you're able to like raise your frequency to that quantum point so that you bypass the idea of time to actually create that in your life, in your physical reality as well. And that's like, it's just gone.
Divine timing is almost paradoxical.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
I really like that. That made me think.
Yeah, like Eckhart Tolle talks about the only moment is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I one something that like I thought of that kind of connects to everything that we've kind of talked about. And again, like the timing of this happening. I literally heard this last night. It's a part of the show White Lotus. And so I don't know if you guys watch it, but it's irrelevant. But there's a monk in it. And so this guy's going through a really tough time and he asks him like, what happens after you die? And he kind of gives this example of analogy. He goes, picture this, like you have water and small droplets of water then rise, it splashes and each single droplet kind of rises above the water. Goes, that's you. That's you in your body form. Like you are that singular droplet. You're having that singular experience. But as soon as you die, or as you start to age, then that droplet starts to fall. And then when you die, you rejoin the ocean and you become a part of everything. It's not separate. You go back to that kind of collective consciousness. And I think Thich Nhat Hanh, I don't know if I said it right, but he has a quote that says, enlightenment is when a wave realizes it's the ocean. And I think
Mm.
based on everything that we're saying, like, and kind of goes with your meditation, because when you were doing that, Ben, I was kind of like, oh, wow, this is so crazy that this is what it is.
Mm.
Because I thought of that example of just like, we are the ocean, like we're all of it,
It's so
especially
aligned with me and Var. Like we talk about this meditation that a spiritual teacher taught us, and literally that is like the name of the meditation. You are the
what?
ocean. You are the ocean. Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy. Oh my God. Yeah, see, that's divine.
Yeah.
There's no coincidences. That's kind of
I think
crazy that.
yeah, like we Joe Dispenza calls it synchronicity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And Carl Jung, I think he coined that term. But yeah, like that's kind of what we're saying, timing. Like time is what separates us all, right? We think separated from everything, but really like it's all one, and it's that connected that allows you to manifest quicker because you already have it. You're already a part of
Yeah.
it. Already relaxed into it. Whereas when the main thing I try to do with manifesting, if I'm struggling with something, to your point, to both your points actually, is I try to legitimately forget. Like I try to forget I have that problem. I try to genuinely not give it any time or attention. Like, for example, your Google verification thing, like I would totally have tried to forget. And I know when I do that and I actually go about your day and you're like, oh yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot about I had that problem. You know, like
Yeah.
when you forget, that's when the email comes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when the phone call happens. That's when a lead DMs you being like, I want your services, like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how it works. I think
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
said
Not
state.
forcing like there's that book Power versus Force, and just like
Yeah,
forcing things never works.
no, because you put expectation on it, right? It's not working out the way that I wanted and the timing that I wanted. Yeah, that's not how it works. Like you
Yeah.
can't control those external factors. The only thing you can control is how you see yourself. And if you're trying to control the situation, it means that you don't necessarily believe in the outcome yet, Like if you actually thought it was going to happen, you wouldn't be trying to control when. You would just let it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like the I heard this quite recently. It's like you're constantly manifesting. Like you don't have to like try and manifest. You just are manifesting. Like that's what we do as human beings. We are creators of our reality. And like you said, you know, for example, like we've manifested, all three of us, to have this podcast right now. But there's other things in my life that I'm, let's say, like negatively manifesting. And is that not negatively, but I would judge it as negative. I'd be like, oh, I haven't got that, or I haven't got this. And this is where, like, again, just bringing this back to like self-awareness. This is where like self-awareness comes into it. It's like knowing the multitudes of which you contain, the different aspects of your conditioning. For example, like my conditioning to be clumsy, and Ben, you mentioned like silly bear. That used to be a part of my identity, that I'm a clumsy person. But I recently did an inner child process where I actually reframed that clumsiness as, actually, it came from being told to be careful. And then I realized, okay, this is like, actually, it created a belief that I'm not careful, that I'm careless. So,
Right.
okay, well, what does it mean if I reframe that? If I look at that differently, I care. Like, that's my superpower. I am full of care if I reframe that idea. So now, like, if I knock something over or something, I don't judge it as me being clumsy anymore. I just see other people. In fact, since I have reframed it, I've started to see other people doing things that I used to judge myself for as clumsy, and go, oh, everyone does it sometimes. You know?
Mm.
Like everyone is human. Everyone can be clumsy sometimes. Like I am not a clumsy person. That was just a particular thing that I was unconsciously focused on. That every time it happened, it like triggered me. You
And
know,
you talked about it as well, and therefore I was looking for it almost.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
how it works.
yeah, exactly. So
Like
the
the
point being, gone.
on a game when there's a glitch in Grand Theft Auto, you have a car and everyone has that car in the game.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So like just that idea that you're constantly manifesting. So for example, I have struggled with being able to speak clearly. I used to mumble speak, and it's something that I'm like, I haven't necessarily fully worked through whatever that thing is about my speech and my ability to speak my truth.
You sound
Actually,
great.
thank
You
you.
sound great. I
Thank
would.
you very much. Actually, I did recently work through it. Now that think about it, it was I got to a point in the process where my message was, I will speak my truth. Remember, Ben, I sent you that voice message where I said,
Yeah.
I'm no longer going to lie. Like, I'm just going to speak. And since then, I've been speaking more clearly. I've been saying less ums and ahs. I've been more conscious of me speaking well. And finally fixed my audio problem, Ben. We've been complaining about me
I've
having
been
a
friends
terrible
with Bar
microphone
for
for so long.
8 years, and the the amount of times I'm like, I can't hear a thing that you're saying. Your microphone's broken or something. He recently, in the last week or two, got a really good microphone, and that
Nice.
problem's gone. But it's been eight
Yeah.
years I've been living with it.
Yeah, and like that's the point. It's like you're constantly manifesting these things, and as you go into that childhood experience and you feel what you avoided feeling at that time, and you clear that emotion away, and you get to the true message, the like of like I can speak my truth, where the previous kind of conditioning said I don't deserve to be heard or something like
Yeah, yeah.
that. Then you get to the point where the true self comes out, which is actually no, like I have value to share. I do deserve to speak. Whenever I'm speaking, people listen to me. That was another thing, like feeling like people don't listen to me and people interrupt me when I'm speaking. Again, like yeah, we all talk over each other sometimes. I've not really cared about it during this call, for example, but in the past I would have really been in my head about it and thinking like,
Right.
oh no, like I'm trying to talk. Why does no one listen to me? And it's just like these. This is what Ben talks about when he talks about the growth that I've had recently. Like I've been doing Luke Scott's Curate Level 2 workshop, and like for the last 8 weeks, my life has just been going through this absolute transformation because we practice these techniques every week, like 3 times. So there's just so much inner work that's been going on
Happy to hear
that we've
that.
been going through. Yeah.
Genuinely, I wouldn't have thought that, which just shows you like it seems like you're doing great work, and I'm happy. I'm happy for you because I think that is the most important work. So really nice to hear, honestly.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. But, just so this topic of self-awareness is so, I guess, dear to me, like it's so important to me because it's exactly what I have been focused on for like at least the last 2 months intensely, but definitely the last 8 years since I met Ben, and probably even before that. Before that, I
It's like
guess,
almost like our topic, like one of like my
yeah,
topics, your topics. Like it's I'm right in front of me behind the camera is my bookshelf. And like even reading books is massively like a lot of the time about self-awareness as well. A lot of it is very practical and about you doing stuff, about you doing processes and all these workshops that we've been to is like it's all about you working on you and becoming more aware. And it's the whole journey of picking up books and journaling and personal development is tied to the self-awareness or
I knew I had to pick this topic. It's funny because I messaged in the group being like, "Oh, I didn't type it because as soon as you put your topics, as soon as the first time we had the conversation, I already knew it was self-awareness. Like I just knowing Ben and then having that conversation with you, I like knew that this would be something that we could easily riff off of and just have such a deep conversation because anything around the concept of self or like I know you guys love super consciousness, so I just thought it would align so great. And I know that we're all working on ourselves and are good people, and so I knew that there'd be space for everyone to talk about their own self, but then also relate to each other because we're all on the same wavelength of what true self can be, which is just essentially connecting to a deeper inner part of you and allowing that to actually move through you and express it in your life in creative ways.
is actually number 20 pillar 21 of Roman standards, of the 29 pillars of Roman standards, which is like the thing that I think originally caught your attention to me.
Play.
Yeah. And then we had that podcast. So like it's that self-awareness is pillar 21 of Roman standards.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. That was that. Yeah, that was the kickoff. And so I'm glad full circle moment. I love those.
Yeah.
I love it so much. One thing as well that I wanted to ask about, Viveka, is you mentioned Esther Hicks or Abraham Hicks earlier, and I'm not too familiar. We've talked a little bit about it. I've looked at some of the videos, but I'd just like to know a little bit more about that and how that relates to this topic as well. Just thought it obvious to ask you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love this question because Abraham Hicks has completely changed my life and been a core factor of my whole journey. I know I talk about Dr. Joe Dispenza, but really like the initial guru, guide, mentor that I was passed on to was Abraham Hicks. And so Esther Hicks is her essential, the way that I like to put it is Esther Hicks is her muggle form. And then Abraham Hicks is like her wizard, wizard form. And so she's somebody that channels energy, channels consciousness, and then she speaks through that. And so she refers to herself as they because it's not a singular person. It's a block of consciousness, kind of like it's the ocean. She's connected to the ocean. And so it does sound woo-woo, but I think when people say that or I recommend it, I just say go listen for yourself. As soon as you hear this person speaking, you know they're in complete flow. And so, how she came up to my life, real quick to give you my story, I went through a tough time and I was completely lost. Everything fell apart. I lived such an amazing life. So, I went through something that was like really hard for me, respectively, relatively. And so, as I was going through that, I was like, I need to figure out how to be okay. I was a highly academic person, and in school, I was never taught how to deal with emotions, how to deal with pain, how to deal with things going wrong in life. They just kind of taught information and knowledge. And I was like, okay, so when do I learn how to deal with real life issues? And so I turned to books, and I was reading a Dale Carnegie book. It was not How to Win Friends and Influence People. It was a different book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And this book was just blowing my mind, like absolutely blowing my mind. The first personal development thing I've ever done. And in the book, the main message I got from it was have a cheerful expression. You can't help but feel happy if you have a cheerful expression and you're walking around like this and you're engaging with life like this. And so I wrote that down in my notebook, put like a big square around it. And every single day, I would tell myself, cheerful expression. Before I walked into any room, before I answered any phone call, before I did anything, I would tell myself, cheerful expression. And to go from such a low and start to do that, crazy things started to happen, like crazy, crazy, weird things, coincidences, right? And so one day I come home, it's just a random Wednesday, 8 p.m., and I'm like, I want to listen to a podcast. And this is like years ago, 2019. So podcasts weren't that popular. And so I was like, okay, let me try. Never listened to a podcast before. And like I said, at the time, words kind of kept coming up. And so the word that was swirling around my head was doubt. And so as soon as I opened up Spotify, I saw the first podcast said moving through doubt. And I'm like, cool, whatever. Didn't think much of it, but I was like, doubt, boom, clicked it. And it was Abraham Hicks speaking. And again, didn't know who this was, but blowing my mind. I just thought it was so amazing. And so she was talking about integrity, and I was like, it's important to have integrity. I think I have integrity. What is integrity? Haven't looked up a definition of a word in a long time. So I look it up. And part of the definition of integrity was moral. I'm like, okay, that's important to have. I think I have good morals. Look up the word moral. Part of the definition was righteousness. And as soon as I saw that, I remembered my name meant three things. And one of them was righteous, self-righteous. But I couldn't remember the other two. And so as I'm lying in my bed, 8 p.m. on a Wednesday, just absolutely random day, I Googled my own name. And when I Google my own name, the three things that come up were self-righteous, well-meaning, and cheerful expression. And so right when I heard cheerful expression, that's when I connected to the quantum world. I had my spiritual awakening. I had my self-actualization. I had my God realization, whatever you want to call it. I just entered a different dimension, a different realm. It was a full being experience, something that I've never experienced before, pure bliss. And at the time I was listening to Abraham Hicks, and that's a lot of what she talks about, connecting to source energy, being a vibrational match to all creator and creating from that space. And so that's when I first got a true understanding of self and self-awareness and self-actualization. I feel like Abraham Hicks was kind of the mediator to me realizing that. I do believe I would have found it any other way, like meant for it for me. But she holds a very special place in my heart. And to this day, I listen to Abraham every single day. That voice is so calming to me, but I just believe it. Like I genuinely believe what she's saying, and I can tell she's speaking from that place because it's not just logical, it's a feeling. And I think once you know, you can't unknow. I think once you get it, you can't unget it. And so it really resonates with my soul in a way. And so Abraham is somebody that I always recommend if you're trying to be more spiritual and trying to connect to what she calls your inner being. Listening to her words will absolutely help you get there, and is a way of thinking, a way of processing life that I really appreciate. And it's brought me so much peace and joy into my life. And her principles are very similar to mine, and she's helped me develop mine. And so Abraham Hicks is someone that I definitely recommend to everyone on their own self-awareness journey.
Oh, that's really interesting. One thing that I picked up on from what you were saying was the idea of that connection to source, and I my therapist has been sort of challenging me a little bit to develop that connection to source and like, oh, what is my relationship to source? And it's really interesting because like I meditate, we do these feelings check-ins, we do these things, but a lot of the time it's like me focused, and even like one of the exercises we did, we came up with like a divine version of me. It's like me, but it's the Hindu god Shiva, but it's that's like my inner divine self, but it was still a divine version of me. So then she was like, well, what is your actual connection to source, to the ocean? And that this is coming back to that word, the ocean. Like when we do meditations, and especially like the curate process, he asks like, what words resonate with you? Do you want to use God? Do you want to say universal intelligence? Do you want to say, whatever else that you might call it, source energy, for example? And for me, like the ocean, I've decided like that's the one that I
Oh,
connect to the most.
yeah.
Yeah, because it's a few things like that idea of that you said about the drop that goes up and
How
down is
crazy is it
also
that I brought that up then?
yeah, as soon as you brought it up, I was like, yeah, I just felt that. And it's funny because like at the same time it was like it wasn't crazy, it was just synchronistic. It was just like, yeah, like it just felt obvious. Ben and I love that word, what's obvious, because it really works. Like
Yeah,
in those moments, I just feel that like, yeah, that was just obvious for you to bring that up. Of
it
course it
makes
was. Like,
you just tap into that like intuitive way of thinking.
I like that.
yeah,
I like that a lot.
it's it's really powerful. And so like when I do connect to that source, for me, it's actually visualizing being that drop and then like expanding to connect to the ocean and really going like that is my connection, to my relationship with the source is just kind of expanding my consciousness to connect to being the ocean rather than being just the drop. And it's really interesting as well because like I went for lunch with my two brothers, and me and one of my brothers, we kind of connect more on spirituality and stuff. And like the last episode of this podcast I did was with him actually. That will be released at some point before this one. But it was like, so him and I, like, we kind of talked about this stuff a lot. And so that's Shiv, my other brother Rishi, which Ben actually met before he met me. I've sort of never always really been able to like see eye to eye with him. Like we do kind of connect as brothers, but we've also had a lot of differences and a lot of like clashes as well. And then it's really interesting because he brought up this idea that like So that's what we said. Like, what was for each of us? What was the thing that like really? No, what did he say? Give me a second. Basically, he brought up this idea of like everything is connected, and it's like, yeah, like we all agreed on this idea of like unity consciousness, and it was really amazing to hear him talk about it because I don't feel like I have necessarily heard him really connect to it. Like when I've tried to like go deep into that conversation with him sometimes in the past, maybe my way of doing it has kind of turned him off to it. So I've not really heard him talk about it, but this time I was just being more present and kind of creating that space for him to just talk. And it was just amazing. I felt so connected to my two brothers in that moment. And I felt like really like just so happy and proud that like we're all kind of we all get it, we all understand, even though we've had like our different paths to kind of get there. And it is like I've been doing again the level 2 curate course, and one of the things he talks about is that like in the Conversations with God book, like you brought up, he talks about that a lot in the course. And one of the things he talks about is that like it's unity consciousness is a sign of an evolved society when a lot of the people, the individuals in the society connect to that unity consciousness. And so coming full circle back to something else, Ben, when I was going to say something and you started talking as well,
Oh yeah.
there was a quote and it said, how do you have a better relationship with others? There are no others. Like just that realization, like there are no others. Everyone is just a different version of you. And like that, I'll need to find the original quote, but that really hit me when I read that recently as well. And I was just like, yeah, like all of these things are just kind of
It's a bit like that
really
teabag quote.
gone.
It's a bit like the teabag quote that I brought up before we started recording, which
Could
was
you remind us what the
the
quote was?
yeah, the one that says, "It's on my teabag right now. You don't need love. You are love. You are
Mhm.
the love." It's very similar what you've said.
Yeah, I love this. This conversation is, I think, exactly what I thought it would be and more.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
I've got a few bookmarks as well, like just from you sharing your journey, Bhavika, if I'm okay to share that.
Yeah.
Please go for it.
One thing I wanted to show you, Bhavika, is I think you would find this again more synchronicity. Can you see that? It's
Look,
basically cheerful expression.
I love
I
that.
was teaching my sister that today when she was working with me. It says, "Hi, this is Emma. How can I help?" But in that, I've got a. It's obviously blurry, but it says smile.
I love
It's
that.
a big, massive, happy face. That
How synchronistic, seriously.
happened today.
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
great.
But yeah,
Love that.
that's a really good lesson. Like that idea of like, there's a book on the front cover. I remember like there's a stick man sort of standing like that, legs apart and the hands apart. But like that's how you hold yourself. And Tony Robbins talks a lot about that as well. Like how you hold yourself
Mhm.
will alter your
Power
state of
move,
mind.
like the
Yeah,
power.
yeah,
Yeah, power moves.
yeah. And you were talking about journeys for like paths, different paths that your brothers have been on and you've been on. But obviously, we don't always end up and arrive at the same place. But I really feel like the three of us right now, we've really like been on our own paths and journeys. And we each individually have like here in your journey, Viveka, is like there's a statement that like Ryan used to say jokingly, tongue in cheek, that he had like vision envy. Like someone would share their vision and he would have envy for someone else's vision. But like I have like journey envy of your journey. It sounds so cool.
I said the same thing to Bivika when she told me last
Yeah, you
time. When we had our
Right.
private call, I said the exact same thing to Bivika. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
it's
like
such a
if I could just
cool
erase
journey.
mine and just replace my journey so I could introduce myself
There's
with your
lots of
journey.
room here. There's lots of room here. Come join.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a few of my bookmarks, being the ocean. That really stuck with me as well. Like what you were saying, Var, like I really felt really connected to the everything when you were talking about the drop in the ocean. But yeah, just the idea of the different paths and how all three of us have like really cool journeys. And hearing your journey, Bhavika, as well is like really inspiring. And I didn't know all of that about you. And that's been really cool to hear that because you interviewed me the last time, and it's been more of a bit more focus on you, which is good because received being the person being interviewed last time, but it's all I'm very curious and interested in other people as well. So it's really good to hear your journey and like
Oh,
that journey. Really
yeah.
cool.
I want to thank you guys for giving me the space to share that, like that. I think when you go through something like that, you naturally want to share out of like the goodness of what came to you. Like that was the most blissful moment of my life. Like if I could just give everyone that for even 0.01 of a second, like
Yeah.
that would be dream. So having platforms like this and friends like this that one, like I'm not telling everyone this story. There's not, I'm not, this not isn't resonating with everyone, right? So for you
Yeah.
guys to be the type of people that I feel safe and wanting to share it with, and then giving me a space and opportunity like this platform to speak about it, like it really means a lot to me, and I'm grateful for it. And I want to thank you for reminding me how beautiful and special that journey is because it's your journey. You lose that sense of awe or that magic to it because it's yours. It's comfortable, it's familiar, and so getting a chance to share it and then seeing your reactions, which were so genuine and sweet, like I just genuinely want to say thank you for reminding me of how important it is to share, and how incredible it is to actually meet people that you desire and want to share it with. So I'm very thankful for both of you.
It makes a big difference. Like and um, same back to you. And like I heard some of your comments when we started this group together on WhatsApp. It's what you were some of the compliments that you gave me was like it's great to be in that environment of people who just like Ver and I have really practiced this, and you're a person that's clearly great at it too. But like it comes naturally, I think, to people, but it's listening and caring and be actually showing that genuine interest in other people's lives. Like I think all three of us do that very well, and it's great because Ver and I do these like marathon monologue, we call it. Like you'll just talk for maybe an hour, and I've not said a word because we
Wow,
give each other that space because we're genuinely interested in supporting each other, and I think we've got a good vibe between the three of us, with in alignment with that.
absolutely. And it's not one-sided at all, like we're all willing to share and talk and listen, which seems great. So I'm happy that you guys added me to your little twosome.
It's always great to, I always love the phrase "the more the merrier," but it's really that idea of like, yeah, like we want to grow that, but Ben and I have always like sort of practiced this on a
Hmm.
weekly call, but it's always been the vision to actually involve more people and to grow it
Yeah.
more and to like have that Ben, you talk about the idea of the castle, like the community of people that are all philosophers, essentially, like people who think more deeply about life and what we're here for. Why are we here? Who am I? These kind of deep questions that not everyone thinks about. And I think it's just a couple of, I've got so many notes from what we talked about. A couple of things that we talked about so much that I wanted to bring up. One thing was you mentioned about when you said the trident, and you said that to you it meant strength and courage. I resisted saying this earlier. My name Vir means courage, and I've always like
Nice.
held on to that. Yeah,
Crazy.
it's
And I told you what my name meant in this
yeah,
whole
Yeah, that's cool.
conversation. That's awesome.
because
That's
well,
awesome.
because you brought that up, I thought I'd share back in a way and sort
Yeah,
of
thank you. Glad you did.
it's it's interesting. Yeah, it's really we'll talk more about it, I'm sure. But the other thing that you mentioned, two, I've got three thoughts in my mind. One, I'd love to talk more about Inside Out, and me and Ben were thinking of doing like a almost like watching the movie and doing like
Yeah.
commentary together,
I
like,
love that.
pausing it and like, yeah, I think it'd be really cool. So I'd love to have you on that. And
Yeah.
then,
Have you watched
yeah,
number
because
two as well?
Yeah,
Yeah.
have you,
really good.
Ben?
Yeah, I've watched it 100 times.
Number two, I think it's one of my favorite movies because just not to spoil anything for that anyone that hasn't seen it, but it just is one of the best representations of like your inner world and what can go wrong sometimes, like what you can struggle with sometimes,
Mm.
as well as like how to solve it. How to kind of that it doesn't have to be like you can solve it. Like is the point is like you when you're going through something that feels like survival, it feels really tough. Like that's just an experience that will sort of pass almost. And then the other part that I just love that this kind of stuff is in mainstream media basically. Like I've been since watching that movie, I have been just exploring more and more about how what we talk about shows up in media, and like going back to books that I read in my childhood, like the Golden Compass trilogy, and realizing how it talks about like the idea of dust is like consciousness, and there's all of these concepts that are in that book that talk about the same kind of ideas, and like just going back into what I really would love is to basically make these connections through all of these things that I've grown up reading and watching and experiencing in life, and to kind of show people like what we talk about is not actually that different from what they already know, because I think that's a lot of resistance that people have. Like, obviously, your brain is designed to keep you safe. Like, anything that's new or scary or uncertain, you will resist, you won't want to listen to, you'll kind of close off to. So, if I can show
Mm.
people, like, it's actually not that different from what they already know. Hey, look, it's like that thing in that book that you read about, but that's actually, real. And, I think like that for me, like that's magic. That's literally magic in the real world, is being able to connect to that superconscious, being able to connect to that quantum field, like right, like you said, transcend but beyond time and get to that space of like connection with unity, to be present, to bypass time, to experience those synchronicities. And what Ryan Pinnock taught us, that like you're genius, you're able to do that consciously. You're able to experience that like through choice, rather than it just
Mm.
happening as a
On
one-off
tap.
chance. Yeah, on tap is the word. Like, rather than it being a one-off chance where you're like, oh, like how did I have that amazing idea? No, like you can
Synchronicity is not like a one-off experience anymore. It's like it's your life.
yeah, you can train yourself to really tap into it, and it's just and
Everything
it's
becomes magic.
yeah, and it's like your programming, your emotional nervous system, your automatic reactions, like they are there. And but just like the same way you can train yourself to put down a hot cup, you can train yourself to hold an emotion for longer before you like release it, before you like instead of I have this example, like instead of like shouting at somebody, you hold that to the gym and use that frustration and anger at like pushing the weights at the gym kind of thing, and like being able to actually choose how you use that emotion.
Tribute it. Yeah.
And do you talk about alchemy? Like alchemy is being able to like break down that emotion into just the pure energy, and then be energized. To come back to what you were talking about, Ben, the core desire feeling of feeling energized,
Mm.
is just alchemy. It's just being able to take these automatic reactions that are happening, to come back to the name of this podcast, give yourself the permission to pause, so
Yeah.
that you can make that decision to consciously handle an emotion in that moment, and utilize that energy, be energized, rather than be dragged down by it, or be pulled away into a pattern of a behavior. And I just think like, oh, I just love talking about this.
I think we could probably talk for like 7 hours straight.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I knew that was the case.
As it's been A really nice time talking to you guys. We can always do more episodes and more podcasts and talk more about stuff. So, did you have any sort of final thoughts before we kind of close off?
Honestly, just a lot of gratitude. I would love to continue the conversation another time. This was so lovely. It felt really effortless. And I feel like there's so much more that we can discuss, but
Yeah.
that a lot of other people would benefit from listening to. It seems like we all have good intentions to serve the world and help people feel good and do good and be better. And so I just want to thank you for allowing me to come on here and share. If anyone else is interested, I just have social media, so feel free to follow me on there. I can send you the links. It's just at the Bhavika Chauhan. And so I'd love to connect with you guys more and share more. But I just genuinely want to say thank you for this conversation. It was something I will think about a lot moving forward. So appreciate both of you.
Amazing. You've already started to answer the question that I asked to finish off the podcast, which is, what are you grateful for? So,
Nice.
thank you for
It's
that.
you too. It's you too, definitely. That's what I would say as a short answer.
Well, I'm blessed. How about you, Ben? What are you grateful for?
Well, Bhavika and Virr. And just the fact that all these magical things are happening in my life, like this conversation and being a guest multiple times on this podcast now, but just how our vision is reality, that like the conscious conversations, it was me, two friends on a phone call on a Sunday night, is becoming this thing, like you're saying, inviting guests in to the circle. And that, yeah, it wasn't ever about keeping it to ourselves. It was about like spreading that, and Bhavika showing that much gratitude towards like coming on. It's and yeah, people that I've met today as well as that, like just bumping into these people who are super aligned and can teach me a lot as well. That like this is my life, and I'm very grateful for coming from that place we talked about earlier, that like of solitude and pain, to like that pain was worth it.
That's beautiful.
Wow. Just take a moment to receive. Thank you, both of you. What I'm grateful for is how much of my life is this now. Like uh, today evening, I'm obviously doing this podcast with you guys. Tomorrow evening we have something organized. Wednesday evening we have something organized. A lot of the conversation I had on the weekend was talking about mindset or spirituality or consciousness or resilience or self-awareness in some way, shape, or form. And I just love it. I just love how it's like taking over my life in the best way. And talking about that kind of idea of like self-awareness allows you to just be more confident, be yourself. It's because I am becoming more self-aware that I'm just allowing. I've really been talking about this idea of aligning. Ben's heard me say that word so many times over the last 6 months, and it's just that idea of like, yeah, I'm just gonna push forward in what I love and let everything else, be. Just let it be as it is, and not worry about it, and just really not chase, but really pursue what I would love to do in any given moment. And this podcast has been like an absolute dream to really host this and to be part of it. So thank you both for joining and for being part of this experience. It's another page in the book that we did this today, and that's just so beautiful to me. It's like, yeah, this is my life. This is another page in that book, and I love it.
That's a great answer. And now your book isn't blank. Now you wrote something down today, which I appreciate. I appreciate both of you. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, this is an awesome podcast. I'm glad this is your life too, and I feel grateful to be in it.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. So,
Yeah.
always like to finish off with just obviously giving you both a chance to share where people can find you. Bhavika, you've already mentioned it, but is there anything that you'd like them to that you'd like to promote? Anything that you'd like to sort of mention for them to look up about you in particular, to look
Yeah.
up with you?
Yeah. I mean, thank you for giving me that space. I mean, just social media. I do social media. That's the industry I'm in. I post, and so that's the free content. I love just giving value and sharing a part of my journey. So feel free to follow along. It's at the Bhavika Chauhan. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And really just being a part of the community is all that I could ever ask for. And so, and if you come to the community, let me know you came from here, because I would love to know that. But yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share that.
Can I make a recommendation, Bhavika? Would you spell out your name to people who may
Yeah,
not know and be able to spell the second name and things?
that's a good recommendation. At CHE and then BHAVIKA, and then my last name Chauhan, CHAUHAN. And I'll send it to you. You can put in like the link or the description or whatever, and that would
Yeah,
make it
we'll
easier
we'll
to.
we'll put it on the screen as well,
We'll
probably.
search engine optimize it. An
Definitely.
SEO guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So is Virr now.
Yeah, talking about that, Ben, where can people find you? What do you want them to look up?
If you search Ben Laing on Google, I'm all over the place. But that is BenLaing, because no one gets my second name right either. And my Instagram's probably the most active place, so that is at Ben Laing, number 2.
Great. Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you very much, Bhavika. So everyone can find the Quantum Buddha podcast, the Permission to Pause podcast, at quantum.buddha. On Instagram is the best place, or quantumbuddha.co.uk. And we will soon have a website for just the podcast itself as well. So thank you very much for you to both join today. And I'm very excited to see where we go next. See you on the next episode.